keep in mind he's an attorney, you might have a little help in understanding.
The short guys have to come closer. It doesn't have a title. I see a nest, more like a cage, closer to a tomb. I see a nest, she laughs. A mountain, he thinks, yet this rock ripening could be gold. I see a nest, she curls his hand. I see a nest, he thinks. He sees a house, a rain of lilies kissing his colossal rock. The kitchen could be oak, he thinks. Armored horses entering my half-a-mile door. I'll sign, I'll sign. He cut the paper where he signed. Rock, paper, match, scissors, she laughs. Paper, match, scissors, rock, he writes. His hands licking a hole the size of a stone, exactly the size of a stone. Let no one move, he signs over and over and over, signs again. I see a lawn, she stutters. I see a grave, he thinks. I go to hell with mail. My lips are holes to hang the payments book. It's rent, she touches him. It's a lawn, he thinks. He sees shit. The bank foreclosed. 1 month or so it seemed, nothing grew. No rain, and she kept falling off leaves, kept touching her nest with her lips. He kept signing his name. It was a lawn. She cries easily now. It was a lawn. He touches her. I see a nest, he told the court. A lawn, she hears. I'll sign, he tells the bank. Paper always covers rock. Rock breaks scissors, scissors cuts match. Match burns paper, paper covers rock. He signs again, over and over, signs again. It's only paper, he hears. It's only rock, she touches him. Okay. Now, you're in for something. This was written 50 years ago. It's from the early 60s. And since then, times have changed. This was just finished today. You gargle the way each morning, trust the soft rustle from a dress becoming dirt, and you set out on foot, looking for her in shadows that no longer move, though the sink is covered with something weak. I can't even read my own handwriting. Sink is covered with something weak, making believe it's learned where your fingers are holding the bottle in a place not even it will remember. How empty your mouth is, day after day spitting into the earth that opens when you whisper to it. It seems that the work, I'm more comfortable when the work gets more abstract, but that's the way it went. And I'll also read two other recent ones that one of the things I found in going back to the old book, I'm using the same words over again. It's in 50 years I haven't even changed my vocabulary. Lost, and you watch the sun worsen, already failing as the night's too weak to warm your shadow. Though you read only in the afternoon, crouched under the kitchen table, with nothing on it that could sag, and without a sound, way too much. Let you open the mail, return to life, the window left in this small room. You can tell from the stamp, it's easy to fear. So frail is its darkness, only your hands can be seen, holding your forehead, pushing it back in to remember where you live. And the last one I'll read is What I do is I make up these 6-packs and I mail them to a few friends as keepsakes. And that's how why it looks like it does, the way it does. Could be this mop, shimmering the way bottom stones are soothed by streams smelling from volcanoes in wood, though the floor is burning your feet with moonlight. Could just as easily be this pail, circling for hidden leaks and seashells scented with water in the room that has nothing more to lose, is looking for a place to dry. That is not your mouth or the air you dead need to put out the fires. By pressing down on your lips, and where there is no trace or a corner that will close by itself. Become dirt, embrace the long wooden handle all night side by side, as if you could still hear it splash, falling back into silence and your arms. Thanks a lot.
Great, Schulman.
I'd like to give 1 minute and 19 seconds of my precious 12 to read a poem by Paul Simic, which I think is a quintessential house poem. He was raised in what was then Yugoslavia with a good deal of violence on the streets from Nazi guards, and this is called House of Cards. I miss you winter evenings with your dim lights, the shut lips of my mother and our held breaths as we sat at a dining room table, her long thin fingers stacking the cards, then waiting for them to fall. The sound of boots in the street making us still for a moment. There's no more to tell. The door is locked, and in one red-tinted window, a single tree in the yard, leafless and misshapen. The more tranquility I have in my beautiful garden here in Springs, the more I think about the world at war, and I wrote this poem today. Haven't read it before, of course, and it's called Hickories. Why do I rant of hickories whose boughs touch other boughs across a slender road? When our neighbor, Hanin, born in Gaza, cried that a missile blew her niece apart in the family garden, the child's father found her intestines stuck to a cypress bark, and he too perished in the raid. Her mother wrote to Hanin before the news was out, "Help me, take my hand." Why do I rave of hickories reaching out their crooked fingers? Because before the fires, the child Lena was dropping almonds into a straw basket. Soon she would run to offer them for dinner. Like Lena, I race to tell you of massive hickories, their nuts, brown shrunken globes, soon to fall. Right, this will be easier to take. A New York house poem called Site, S-I-T-E. The absence of a house, a negative image, listed at wrong addresses in the guidebooks, in fact, invisible. Still, it invites what negative capabilities the heart can muster, not simply to observe the sun's glare on a jet's wing before sunrise, but in dark rooms to hear a lost friend's laughter. Take the house at 19 Washington Square, the one with no brass plaque that claims it's the site of a house in a book by Henry James. When the late sun reddens the auburn bricks, stare until stone steps turn to white marble, Ionic columns flank the wooden door, and frayed roses in the yard become bold peonies restrained by iron fences, hand-wrought with lyres, Greek frets, acanthus leaves. Peer through needlepoint lace above a balcony and find a woman at a writing table in a red gown and shawl, chosen so they and not she would look well. And know that things survive in their sights, in the ghosts of houses, linger in the incandescent images of what we imagine has occurred. The parlor, after the guests have gone, the broken phrase somebody whistled once, the theater's curtain that holds the mark of the dancer's perilous leap skyward, the flexed plie, the twist and spin so high it seemed he would never descend. This poem has to do with our beloved East Hampton, my house there, without a flame. Raised like a houseplant on a windowsill, looking out on other windowsills of a treeless block. I couldn't take it in when told I owned this land with oaks and maples scattered like crowds on Sundays, and an underground strung not with pipes, but snaky roots that writhed when my husband sank a rhododendron, now flaunting pinks high as an attic window. This land we called our place was never ours. If it belonged to anyone, it was the Montauk chief who traded it for mirrors, knowing it wasn't his. Not the sailors who brought the blacksmith iron, nor the farmers who dried salt hay, nor even the later locals, whale hunters, the harpooner from Sumatra, the cook from Borneo, who, like my ancestors, wandered from town to port without a claim. Their names inside me, though not in the registries. No more than geese in flight, shadowing the lawn, cries piercing wind, do we possess these fields, given the title, never the dominion. But here we are in April, watching earth rise with bellflowers that toll, brawl, call in silence, daffodils that gleam yellow through sea haze, and cedars at sunrise asking for flame like a cake with tears of birthday candles. Come visit us by shore up a mud lane. Duck under the elm's branches thick with leaves, on land deeded to us but not to keep. And take my hand, mine only to give, for a day that shines like corn silk in wind. We rent, borrow, or share even our bodies, and never own all that we know and love. This poem is called Grandmother's Sea. It's about a painting, but it has a house and garden in it. It's the house, it has to do with the house where I was born in Brooklyn. Grandmother's Sea roars in my closet, oil on wood, gilt frame. This was your birthplace, yes, Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, before subways. The ocean hissed on sand, and bluefish leaped at sunrise. Her deep voice gathered force like sea waves. Outside the window, a gas tank's truck rattled down her syllables and groaned at a neighbor's door. In the painting, a woman stood wind-tousled with a basket of plums on a brief panhandle of shore, gazing at water. Except for her blue apron, Brushstrokes were murky, auburn dress, mud sky. My grandmother wore white embroidered shirtwaists when she stirred iron pots and tended roses. One day I dabbed the painting with a cloth. Dust gone, the drab seawater shone cerulean. On shore, an egret was a blazing question, its yellow bill a pinpoint under skies of prophetic light. A tern hovered so close to cliffs so sharp that fish stench filled the air. Under backing, words loomed, scratched on wood. Ellen Terry starring in The Good Hope. Artist name blurred, not Brooklyn. Still, I know that even after subways came, the sea rasped outside the garden of my first house. Just one more, and again, a garden poem, but this is the archetypal Garden of Eden. Expulsion. Half rotten, half sweet, it lay on the ground for days before I tried it, and offered another to my love, who said, "I've never liked apples." When I walked on, he ate it, core and all, and that's when it began. We bought enough Rome beauties to make apple marmalade and apple chutney, then curries, souffles, perushki. We grew restless, even before the storm cut off our water supply, and winds lopped the elm that cracked over telephone wire. I remember how in crisp air the sun lit the sheep laurel and fell along with quiet. He called the perennials by names once unfamiliar to us, each with a resonance: monkshood, purple iris, foxglove, nightshade. Some we tended, others grew wild, recurring gifts. But all was not right. There were shrill insects, scorpions, snaky vines that twisted up cedars and strangled white pines. Here in the city, things are less clear. A rickety ambulance snorts, carrying the half-dead, a pedestrian's shot during a robbery, while toddlers embrace 20 blocks away. That square of street, not covered with grime, glitters in moonlight. My love does not give names to anything. Instead, he falls silent before a grove of trees among buildings. We cherish what little we have. One side is bright, the other dark. We praise it.
Certainly not least but last, Harvey Shapiro.
I'll begin with a traditional invocation to the muse. This is called Muse Poem. While I'm waiting for the words, could you just lean over me a little, that way, with your breasts of imagination, incense, and blue dawns. It is always the same quiet night. You, in your desperation, say, what you are writing is poetry. No one will read it. You worry about my health when I find I am not to be famous, but I am already inside you in my thoughts. And now to come to the theme of our readings, this is about my favorite kind of garden, which is a Zen garden. It's called Colors. In April's late afternoon sun, the colors of the world deepen. If it could be done, I would sit now in Kyoto by myself, looking out on the raked stones, the sparse green of a Zen garden. Years ago, before they closed it for renovation, a renovation that has never ended, you could sit that way in Brooklyn, in the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens' own Zen Garden. I would go there late Saturday afternoons with my younger son, and I would understand what peace is possible in this world. I think that was the time I may have taught him something, I who have been so niggardly in instruction. And now this rich color seeps into my day, and maybe all my days. And this is, as Grace said, the archetypal garden, Garden of Eden, where we started. And it's called Adam, short poem. It is possible Adam was bored in paradise. The leafy green settling in his mind like fog. I have a taste for something else, he thought. But what? I'll read some poems from the manuscript I'm working on. This is an East Hampton garden poem. The deer don't startle anymore. They turn from me in boredom, edging on loathing. That a grown man who has seen war and the destruction of cities should bestir himself to keep them from their food. These are two poems about a place I've become fond of in recent years, Key West. At the corner of Simonton and Amelia, there is a small junkyard that is as beautiful to me as the deep blue sea stretching from here to Cuba. It has an arching tree over it, and its shards of old cars, tractors, boating gear shine in the tropic sun, but with an American splendor, like rolling waves of grain. How odd to have been taught to respond to junk by my culture, and with a patriotic fervor, so that the colors red, white, and blue blaze through the rust. The Keys. Light everywhere. Wave glint, palm glint, on rock and on sand. Light nesting in the Florida Keys, as if the holy Shaper, like an old Jew, gathered it here to watch while he sipped his soup. The mother of invention. On my desk are the bills from the living, and in my sleep are the bills from the dead. Emptiness is the mother of invention, says my fortune cookie. July 23rd, 2010. Brooklyn. I walk in the slow rain, never less accomplished, never happier. Why should I doubt the world has meaning when even in myself I see mysterious purposes? How else does the mystery approach us except through our daily lives? I still write poems about World War II, that antique war that Si and I were in, like the Trojan War. This is called An American Life. The tunes I hear in my 80s, I first heard in my teens, like You Must Remember This, a kiss is just a kiss, a sigh is just a sigh, the fundamental things apply as time goes by. When I was 20, the words had changed to You must remember this, the flak can't always miss, there's someone's gonna die. The fundamental things apply as flak goes by. I sang them in Italy, in the bars, between missions. And here I am at 85, the tune on the radio, driving along, caught in a time warp that sings. That was written 2 years ago. I'm now 87. So. During the Second World War, I stood at the door of a B-17 with one engine on fire. I had been told to get ready to bail out. Beneath me were the snow-covered mountains of Yugoslavia. Around me was nothing but air. I wanted to stand there forever. This is called Departures. A great ship steaming out of the mouth of the Hudson, shrouded in fog, past Battery, past Governor's Island, a stately, silent exit, while the traffic of the VQE buzzes beneath me. If I could send my years out to sea like that, with all that I've done wrong, I could lay my head beside the golden door. And now we enter the forest of Arden, where everything is possible, and the most haunting lyrics are sung by clowns and fools, and where I want to be. Nobility of utterance was never my strong suit, nor nobility of style. I came to the table in my bathrobe and said what the night had taught me. I've become bone clean and scentless. There is nothing for birds and small dogs to pick over. I've become a scarab for the muse to wear around her neck. Little poem called Pardoned. I don't have to spend my eternity in Queens because the family plot in Queens is as crowded as a subway at rush hour. In choose my own ground, and my own tree, and my own crow to croak Kaddish. Two more poems. This is for the religious poem called Psalm for Day of Atonement. I am still on a rooftop in Brooklyn on your holy day. The harbor is before me, Governor's Island, the Verrazzano Bridge, and the Narrows. I keep in my head what Rabbi Nachman said about the world being a narrow bridge, and that the important thing is not to be afraid. So on this day, I bless my mother and father, that they be not fearful where they wander. And I ask you to bless them. And before you close your book of life, your Sefer HaHayim, remember that I always praise your world and your splendor, and that my tongue tried to say your name on Court Street in Brooklyn. Take me safely through the Narrows to the sea. And I'll end with one of the first poems in the English language. This is called Cadman's Hymn. It was written in Old English about 1620 AD. And I translated it from the Old English for an anthology of Old English poetry that was recently published. Cadman's Hymn. Guardian of heaven, whom we come to praise, who mapped creation in his thought's sinews. Glory, Father, who worked out each wonder, began with broad earth, a gift for his children. First roofed it with heaven, the holy shaper, established it forever, as in the beginning, called it Middle Kingdom, fenced it with angels, created a habitation for man to praise his splendor. Thank you very much.
I think you'd like to come up and thank the poets for, I think, what was a remarkable afternoon of poetry, and please have something here.